So as far as the Patriot movement, and that's what LWN is, we are part of many patriots out there searching for the truth and delivering the news like it should be delivered. All right, LWN. LW is now a licensed broker for Miles Franklin. So if you need any help purchasing precious metals, if you need help maybe flipping your 401k over into a self-directed IRA, your pension funds, your retirement, any need, any question that you have, you can reach out to me at lwnreloaded@gmail.com. Would love an opportunity to earn your business and to answer your questions. And hold on, folks. This week's specials, beautiful, beautiful. The silver Buffalo Bull Mint rounds while supplies last, only $2.85 over spot. On one side of the coin, you have two buffaloes, two bulls going head-to-head. You got a Native American chief on the other side of that coin. Absolutely gorgeous coin for only $2.85 over spot while supplies last. We also have assorted Buffalo silver rounds while supplies last, only $2.65 over spot. Some of the cheapest prices I've seen so far since I've been a broker for Miles Franklin. I have some of these beautiful coins myself. They look just like a Buffalo nickel, where they have a buffalo on one side. They have the Native American on the other side. Just a beautiful, gorgeous coin, only $2.65 over spot. Again, if you're thinking about the things that are going on in the United States of America, in our economy, the things that the Fed has just put out this week, and you're concerned about your 401k, is it going to last? Is the market going to crash? And what does that mean for you? I would be glad to answer those questions for you, for your 401k, for your pension funds, for your retirement. If you have just some cash laying around and you want to know how to invest it, hey, reach out to us right here at Miles Franklin, and we will be glad to answer those questions and help you through it. You can reach me at lwnreloaded@gmail.com. All right, LWN, if you want to know how to get in on the monthly coin giveaway, it's pretty simple. Simple donation will get your name put in the drawing each and every month that we do the coin giveaway. First way to do it is to buy me a coffee. The links are always dropped in chat. So all you have to do is buy me a coffee just once a month, and your name will be put in the drawing for that beautiful coin. And if you are watching us on Facebook, I've had a lot of people reach out to me and ask, what are stars? How do I donate? How do I get my name put in the drawing? Well, you can purchase Facebook stars, and then it's just like Super Chat or anything else. You can drop a comment in there with the stars. I got away from Super Chat because YouTube was taking over 30% of everything that you guys donated to us here at LWN. So you can buy a star. The stars support the creators, and that is an easy way for you to get your name put in the drawing. Here's some information for you here. Some cost for the stars. You can get 45 stars for 99 cents. You can get 145 stars for $2.99. I think basically each star is like 1 penny. So if you drop 100 stars, that's like $1. So euros, of course, you can buy them anywhere. Put them anywhere you want there in the chat, and that will definitely get your name put in the drawing each and every month for these beautiful coins that we are giving away here at LWN. All right, LWN, tonight's the night, the big coin giveaway at LWN 2. 1 ounce silver coins are going to go to 2 lucky winners tonight. For anybody who purchased a coffee, buy me a coffee in the month of January, your name is going to be in that drawing. Anyone who purchased and dropped stars on Facebook, your name is also in that drawing. So tonight, 2 lucky winners right here at LWN at the end of this broadcast. Stay tuned. Don't miss out. Really excited to be able to hand back and give back to all of you who have supported LWN tonight at the end of the show. All right. Welcome back, America. Welcome back to LWN. We have a new guest, first time here at LWN, and she is out of the great state of Wisconsin, real close to Green Bay. Her name is Annie Marie, and I am going to ask her to join me here in just a minute. But so this story here, folks, is about more corruption, the court systems in Wisconsin, and she has a story to tell. And maybe some of you, I would imagine a lot of you probably have never heard this story before, but she's going to come on air with me here in just a moment and give you guys a little bit of her background, where she comes from, and kind of the overall picture of her court cases and the things that she seems to be struggling through right now. And she could use all of our support, all of our prayers. With that being said, I would like to welcome Ann to the show. How are you doing this afternoon, Ann?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on your show and allowing me the opportunity to tell my story really for the first time. And it's been over 3 years I've been in this struggle.
So, Wisconsin's pretty cold right now, and it's it's close to the temperatures that we have here in Idaho. So I'd imagine a lot of your days are probably just trying to stay warm in these cold winter months. But you also struggle with other things, problems with your property, problems with courts, uh, things that they have done to you unlawfully. So let's start at the very beginning. Let's just give the audience a little bit of who you are. Obviously, we don't have to give all the first and last names and all that stuff. But just kind of maybe how long have you been in Wisconsin? Did you grow up in Wisconsin? You talked about owning a family business. And how long has it been in the family? Just things like that to let the audience get to know who you are, and then we'll dive off into some of the legal battles that you have been undergoing.
Yes, I am originally from Wisconsin. I was born in a rural community in south central Wisconsin. My parents owned a dairy farm, about 167 acres. I'm the oldest of 3 children, and we had a wonderful childhood. We knew every inch of that property growing up. And, I grew up with all kinds of animals, and we had chores and we had responsibilities, typical of any farm kid. So my work ethic I got from both of my parents, my grandparents. I had a very, very good childhood. I went to UW La Crosse for my undergrad in physical education, youth fitness. I did my internship in Perth, Australia. While I was in Australia, I found out that I was going active duty, and my first tour was going to be to Germany. So I did altogether about 11 and a half years active duty and 4 years Minnesota National Guard. I've multiple tours in Germany, one to Korea, a couple of deployments. And then when I came back, I ended up marrying an active duty guy. And even though I got out of the military, he got orders sending us back to Germany. So I actually spent 5 more years in Germany. My first child was born in Sauk City, Wisconsin, and my other 2 children were born. My daughter was born in Wiesbaden, Germany, and my son was born in Birkenfeld, both German hospitals in Germany. So then we came back and looked at many properties to buy, and I ended up finding the top three for my then husband and I to figure out which one we wanted to buy to make our family campground. And we ended up settling on one that wasn't even one of the top three. So we bought the Soaring Eagle Campground in 2010, July 30th of 2010. And I've been a small business owner, entrepreneur since 2010, so for about 12 years. The last year has been very challenging, to say the least, and we'll get into those challenges here in a bit. But I had a lot of help. When I say it's not just me. My dad helped me a lot. I had neighbors that really pitched in and helped. But we were able to build a really awesome family oriented, kid friendly family campground. And there's plenty of Mother Nature. I encourage people to get off their gadgets and phones and reconnect with Mother Nature and get out and get dirty. My three children grew up with a water hose and some dirt. Man, you could play for a long time in a nice old mud puddle.
Amen. Amen. And thank you so
Yeah.
much, Ann, and your husband for your service. We greatly appreciate the sacrifices that our servicemen and women have made for this country. It allows me to do what I'm doing right now, which is be behind this camera, behind the mic, interviewing great people like you and telling their stories. So first of all, thank you so much for your service. And then you come back and you guys start your own family business, an RV park, a campground, and what a wonderful story that is. And to interact with people during some of the warmest months of the year and see kids playing, and I'm sure it brought joy to you and your family.
Yes. Sorry, you got me a little choked up there. um, yeah, so it was a lot of hard work. They call it sweat equity, and my dad was by me the entire time. Unfortunately, my dreams of having a family, campground where we could raise our three children was not shared by my husband. We have divorced. Um, and that was not very pleasant. That is a continuing personal challenge. But the campground, it's beautiful. It sits on 155 acres. It is absolutely gorgeous. There's a little creek that runs on the south side of the campground. There are seven spring-fed ponds on the property. Two
Wow.
of them we did excavate. So one is the swimming pond, which has a waterfall that we made, which is probably the focal point of the campground. It's a huge swimming pond. I think it's like, I measured it one time. It's like 172-foot diameter. And then the fishing pond is another acre or plus or minus acre fishing pond. And then we have 5 other natural ponds on the property. So they're all spring fed. The springs are on my property that make the little creek that, is our southern boundary. And it's just so pretty back there. So when I have putz around time, I call it my tractor therapy and chainsaw therapy time. I go back and I putz around and I work on the trails, and I move sand from one place to the other and kind of fill in the pothole. No, I shouldn't say potholes. They're where the low areas are at, so that people can actually take a buggy, their baby stroller, or a golf cart, or they can go for a run and they don't have to worry about tripping over rocks and stones. So that's always constant improvement. But there's plenty of nature, and it's so pretty. And I mean, I love what I do. My campground is an extension of myself.
Yeah. So you served your country proudly, traveled around the world serving your country, had a dream, came back to America, bought the property, created the dream, and living the dream, and just absolutely enjoying it. I can picture it in my own mind's eye right now, how beautiful that waterfall is and how beautiful the scenery is. And I love to fish, and having a campground with a fishing pond right there is just magic. And so you've not only created happiness and joy for your own family, but you were creating happiness and joy for all the people that come to visit your campground. So I guess my question is, I'm leading into it here, is It seemed like you had almost a picture perfect life. I understand that you've gone through a divorce. That happens in life, but for the most part, um, things were on the up and up. You were living your own dream. Now we're talking about, from what I gather, you're almost living a nightmare. And what was the initial cause that started this landslide that you have been dealing with now for, what is it? I think you said almost 3 years. Um, what happened? Tell us the story, please.
Well, just a little bit of, um, I guess, getting into the health department. I'm a medical service corps officer. I'm a medical planner by trade and training, and a medical logistician by experience. So my military experience is I've been able to work with other logisticians and the advanced parties, and we can go into pretty much any environment and assess our situation, and we know what the needs are of the community that we have to support, and we build that infrastructure. So my experience fit very well with buying this fixer upper property basically that really did not have much infrastructure, and we built it. It was a lot of hard work, and life was going pretty good. I was through the bulk of the divorce, so to speak, and um money was starting to come in a lot easier, so to speak. And in, I think it was 2015, in the winter months, like now, this is when I my marketing is already done for the following year, and I'm kind of looking at the numbers and looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly, and kind of figuring what I want to do for the following camping season. And then I start, buying stuff for we try to have everything bought and stocked, going into the Memorial Day weekend. That's our first big weekend of the year. And I was looking for inflatables for the swimming pond. And I came across this awesome inflatable water park. And it was huge. I call it like a little kid's wading pool on steroids. It had a
Yeah.
big basin and one gigantic, one medium, and one smaller slide, all inflatable. You don't have to worry about any, abrasive, where you're tripping on concrete or anybody falling in, or, any bad things really. It was impossible for a little child or a small pet to fall off into this because it actually sat on the ground, and you had to like step over the rim of this basin. It was probably about 2.5 feet high. So it was very safe, and I had never seen anything like this. And I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. So I bought it, and it took me a while to get it from China. I could not find a manufacturer in Wisconsin or anywhere in the United States.
Yeah.
And I decided to do a little bit of research, and I cut out a lot of middlemen, and I went to where the actual manufacturer was in China, and I bought it for about a seventh. I think it was a seventh of the price if I would have gone through an American distributor. And so I learned a little bit about, how that all works and where we ship our job, where the chemicals and the manufacturing really goes, and why. But anyway, I ordered this thing, and it was supposed to have been there that year by Memorial Day weekend. And my container, which went into Los Angeles port, it got held up for security reasons. Okay, I've been in the military. I've shipped things around the world and helped put things on planes and figure out load plans and put them on ships and all that stuff. So I was aware of the logistics involved. I'm like, okay, when will it be here? Well, it'll be there in a couple more weeks. All right. Well, it got pulled again for like a CAT scan. I'm like, this is like this is plastic. This is this is like an inflatable super toy. Why is my stuff getting pulled? Anyway, it ended up coming into Neenah, Wisconsin, right before 4th of July weekend. And I was told by the transportation guys in Neenah that, it was a holiday weekend and they would be able to get it to me after the weekend. And I said, no, I don't think so. So I'm like, look, I did the stuff in the military. I know that there's a barcode on every single container that came in on the train. I want you to find my stuff and let me know what it looks like. And it shouldn't be that big of a deal. I already had the pounds worked out, and I'm like, I think I could come down and get it myself. Like, yeah, you can pick it up yourself. So that is what I did. So I trailered my own stuff back. And I had about 30 or 40 people. Everybody was excited. You know, we've been talking this up for over a month already. And so I had plenty of help to get it unfolded and figure out which direction everything had to go and get, get the blowers and the electrical and everything, get everything hooked up. And then brought in two big milk trucks that had been sanitized, and they brought, sanitized water, two huge milk trucks to fill that thing up. So we had it for 4th of July weekend that year.
That's pretty
It
cool.
was oh my God, it was a huge hit. Everybody loved it. I was on seventh heaven. I was like, this was the best decision I've ever made, and it felt good, like really good. Everybody was happy. The kids were happy. The parents were happy. I was happy, crying tears of joy. It was beautiful. After that weekend, I got a meeting with the unannounced inspection by the health department, and they came to inspect my restaurant. And I had another busy weekend coming up. I had like a wedding for 400 people that I did the catering for, and getting everything set up and stuff. And I really had no time for this guy, but I made time. 3 hours later, I'm thinking we're done with this, and he tells me that, and now for the bad news. And so I
Uh-oh.
sat back down and I looked at him. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, that thing out there, and he points out my bar, where my bar restaurant is. Like, that thing out there that needs to get off your property immediately. I started laughing. I thought he was kidding. And he's like, this is not funny. This is a public safety hazard. And I'm like, it is not. And I said, I just got this thing. I paid $15,000 and I finally got it here before this weekend. I am not taking that anywhere. And he's like, you need to remove it immediately. And I just looked at him and I said, whatever it takes for me to make this safe in your mind, I will make that happen.
Hmm.
And he told me, this is a guy from the health department, the Wisconsin State Health Department. He told me that there was nothing that I could do to modify it that would make it safe. It would never be approved. And
So I got to stop you for just a minute because I got to jump in here because I am people that know me well know that I'm not real big on control. Like I don't like government agencies coming in and telling me what I can and cannot do. I want to be a free person as well. And I am a free person. I was born a free person. God gave me that inalienable right, and nobody's going to stop me from doing that. So I understand having a health inspector. I've owned a restaurant once before in my life as well. I understand having a health inspector come in when you're dealing with the public and you're serving food. But we're talking about a Chinese blow up pool with a couple slides on it. What, I guess my question to you, and maybe you can or cannot answer this. What in the heck would the health department have anything to do with the pool? Now, my first reaction is, of course, they start thinking about the little kids that are in there and them, peeing in the pool or whatever. That could be a health concern, I guess. That would be the only health concern I could possibly think of. But I would think that a woman with your intelligence level and all your life experience would probably have already thought of that. And I don't know, maybe you put chlorine in, maybe you even had a calculation of how much chlorine should go into that certain pool with the amount of water that's in there. I'm sure you probably thought through some of that stuff and didn't just decide, hey, I'm going to throw something up on my property and endanger myself or anybody who's actually on the property. So what gives the health department the right to even make that comment? Where was he coming from? I'm trying to understand why this comment was made in the first place and who gives him that right.
that is an excellent question, because, some of my background as a medical service corps officer, I had the preventive medicine guys with me pretty much the entire time I was in the service. The preventive medicine guys, one of their specialties is sanitation. So they're the guys that are going to test the water wherever we deploy to, or we're setting up camp to make sure the water is safe, or, they give it to our so-called, it's usually Alpha Company, the water dogs. They have the ROPU units where they can plug a hose into any body of water, and it goes to this reverse osmosis water purification unit. and it pumps out hundreds of thousands of gallons. So wherever we deploy to, we never have to worry about clean water. We always have it. And I'm like, well, if you need to go, I told this health guy, I'm like, well, go out and test the water, and you
Yeah.
tell me that it's not safe, because I ended up getting a pool
Again,
certification.
I don't, you know, I don't know of any health inspector, and I could be wrong, folks. I could very well be wrong, but I don't know of any health inspector that goes into a public pool or anywhere else unless they're serving food. I could be wrong about that. So disclaimer, LW could be wrong about that. I don't understand where this guy's coming from. And I want to
Right.
say to the audience, hold on for just a second, because we're not just talking about a beautiful RV park and this blow up pool thing and a health inspector having a fit. This thing goes a lot deeper. So stay tuned for the rest of the story, because it's just barely getting started. Um, Go ahead there, Ann. I'm already furious with the health inspector, and I don't understand who gives them the authority to come in there and tell you that. So you told him, go ahead. If you feel like you need to test the water, test the water. What happened?
He told me that wasn't his job. And I explained to him, I said, of that entire thing sitting out there that I just paid 15 grand and a lot of money in marketing for the season, I said, there is nothing wrong with the water. We had a commercial grade water filtration unit. We were, because of it, it was pretty big. I mean, it was probably less than a foot deep, but it was about 50 to 55 feet wide. So this was a wading pool on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
But it was clean water. We ended up having to sweep the bottom of it every morning. It took about an hour to do the maintenance. I had my water test kit. We did add chlorine. We had purification tablets in the commercial grade purification unit. The water was fine. There was nothing wrong with the water. And he refused to test it. And I'm like, that's the only thing that could be seen as a public safety, where you would try
Let
to
me
do some
ask.
sort of intervention.
Let me ask another question, Ann. Um, so normally inspectors will give you they'll write you a warning, or they'll even submit a ticket or whatever you want to call it. Did he submit anything to you, or this was 100% verbal, where he just pointed out there in your yard and said, I don't like that thing, it's a danger to the public, and it needs to be gone? Did he do any kind of analysis? You already made comment that you said if you want to test the water, test the water. He didn't test the water. He said it wasn't his job. Did he bring in a third party company that tested the water and found bacteria or anything in this water for him to come to his conclusion of you needed to remove this off your property? Or was this just a looky see and that's what I tell you to do, so you need to do it?
That what you just said, that is correct. That he couldn't print off the restaurant inspection for me. He refused to use my Wi-Fi printer, but at the end of the restaurant inspection, he pulled out a one piece of paper cease and desist order that had been digitally signed. He came there to shut down my water park. The restaurant inspection was just, that was
Cover.
unnecessary
It was a
completely.
cover. It was a
Yeah.
cover for him.
Yes.
So I'm still trying to
And
get to the bottom of who did you piss off? I mean, why is this guy coming on your property to shut a little water park down? It just doesn't even make any sense to me yet.
well, when I was a company commander in Dexheim, Germany, I got very frustrated because of the training requirements. It was my responsibility. We were training for two wars, Iraq and Korea. So we were training for two completely different environments, two completely different cultures. Everything was different. And it was very frustrating. And I was complaining about it to my NCOs. And one of my NCOs asked me if I had read the United Nations Agenda 21. And I'm like, no. Why the hell would I read something United Nations? What the hell does that have to do with us?
Yeah.
We're U.S. Army. And he's like, ma'am, I'll be right back. And he brought that to me, and I read it, and I was by myself, so I'm not going to say that I lost my military bearing, but I had to cry. I read that,
So
and it
what
made
was
me
in
it
it?
made me sick.
Share just briefly a few of the things that were in that.
Well, basically the COVID stuff. Um, we've actually trained in the military. We've trained for real pandemics. You would be dressed in
Real pandemics.
yes, you would be dressed in full gear where
Hazmat.
it was
Hazmat.
in
Head
Yes,
to toe,
hazmat.
head to
Yes,
toe.
yes.
And it's funny that you say that because I got to stop and make a comment real quick. We have a woman here who has a world of experience dealing with this stuff. She just said when they trained with hazmat suits, head to toe. Let's talk. I'm sidestepping for just a moment. Then you talk about the pandemic that hit our shores in November of 2020 that went worldwide. I'm walking through Home Depot, Walmart, all kinds of parking lots, and I've got these nasty masks floating in the air, blowing across the parking lot. This is supposed to be the most deadly virus the world has ever seen, and yet these biohazard masks are everywhere. You can't go anywhere without seeing them. They're filling up the land masses, and this woman is telling us when they trained for pandemics, they were suited head to toe. So I asked the audience, which my audience is very educated. We've been through this a million times. What's the point of the mask other than do as you're told and comply? And she is sharing her story where a health department official came in and wanted her to comply. Go ahead, Ann.
Well, I know I need to wrap that part of it up, but I fought the health department for the whole 9 weeks of my summertime season, which in Wisconsin is very short anyway. I won in the end. They ended up lifting that restriction. The health department, I had 2 state officials and our county rep at the time, 3 of them come out to enforce this order that had already been lifted, but apparently they didn't get the memo, but they were escorted by one of Shawano County Sheriff's Department deputies. And
So,
I'm like,
let me catch up here. So he came in, you guys having a conversation. He pulled out some document that was going to shut the water park down. Did it only shut the water park down? Did it have anything? Did it shut the restaurant down? Did it shut the rest of camping down? You said that you fought this and won, but it was 9 months later. So does that mean after spending $15,000 on this new equipment that you after the first time you set it up, you couldn't use it for that whole 9 months? Is that what you're saying?
9 weeks, the whole
9 weeks.
9 weeks
Sorry,
of
9 weeks.
summer. And they threatened me that if I did not immediately drain it and remove it from my private property, by the way,
Hmm.
that they would not renew my campground license, my restaurant license. I had a fish farm license. I mean, to run my property, I have like 7 different licenses.
So
And
that's
they were
blackmail.
threatening
That's blackmail extortion right there. They
extortion.
are holding something over your head and not allowing you to make a living, and coercing you into complying, or there's going to be a punishment. There's going to be a consequence. We're going to take your license from you. We're going to take this from you. You won't be able to make a living. You won't be able to have anybody actually schedule and pay you to be on the premises. This is private property. She purchased this. They're telling her you have to drain it and remove it completely from the property.
Yes,
Am I listening and hearing this correctly?
you are hearing it correctly.
Whew.
I learned a
Blood
lot.
pressure. My blood pressure is going up, Ann, as you're telling the story.
I actually started writing a book. That's part of my healing over this winter because it's been very difficult. The last year has been exceptionally difficult. But just trying to, look back at what has happened to me. It's not all bad stuff, but I'm like, what in the hell? What the media, after the deputy came to escort these 3 health department inspectors who, by the way, none of them, it wasn't their job to test the water. They couldn't test the water. But I did. I mean, I had logs. I made my own maintenance log. They wouldn't give me a permit for a pool. That was returned. My $350 pool permit check was returned. I was trying to do the right thing. I found the loopholes in the regulations. It could have been an experimental water feature. All of that was denied. They simply wanted me to remove it from my property, and I refused.
and
And
they didn't like that. How could that be any different than? And I've stayed in them before, an RV campground that has a hot tub, a community hot tub, and all
right.
the kids and stuff are hopping in a hot tub. How can this be any different than that?
Right. Well, it's a little bit different because it's not concrete. It doesn't have the in-ground, it's not in-ground. It doesn't have the same filtration. But I made it work for what I had, and it's a new product. So they weren't prepared to deal with it. But I did win in the end, but it was a very exhausting summer, and I learned a lot about Wisconsin government, and I learned a lot about Wisconsin Health Department, Bubbas and Bubettes. And when the sheriff's deputy came out to escort them because they saw me as a hostile environment, and I thought that was laughable. um, so when the deputy came out, well, now there's something in the police record. So our lovely Shawano County, the locals all call it the mist leader, but it's a Shawano leader. They came out and they wanted to do an interview with me, and I'm like, yeah. And I showed them the paperwork, I showed them the regulation. They took pictures of it, tried to make a big deal out of it. And the guy at the time was actually pretty reasonable, and he's like, so what are they trying to shut this down for? He's like, I don't see anything here in this paperwork. And I said, exactly. Exactly. And I said, look, I know that you're probably trying to, make a big story out of this, but if you could please make it side with me. I am a sole member, sole proprietor. I'm at that point I was a single mother of 3 young children, and I'm like, make this work for me, one of we the people.
Yeah.
And that article came out. It was fairly accurate. I think there was like one sentence that was not, but for the most part, it was pretty good. And that got picked up all over the place. And at that point, I was still able to use Facebook, fairly freely. And so I shared that article on my business Facebook and my personal Facebook page. And then I put like, I don't know, I put like maybe a $500 boost on it. It made it, I think, over 200,000 shares, and I don't know how many likes,
Wow.
and I don't know how many comments, but it was incredible, and that was in a very, very short amount of time. So I think what that did, knowing now what Facebook is, a DARPA, military industrial complex invention
Yep.
to, spy on us, to spy government spyware and collect data on us. I think that back in 2015 already identified me. I don't want to say a threat because I'm a happy person. I like to go out and have fun, and I like to make people, happy as I can, and do the right thing and help as many
You're
people as I
labeled
can.
a domestic extremist terrorist like the rest of us.
Yeah, whatever that really
That
means.
basically the definition of that means I like freedom. So if
Right.
I am a domestic extremist terrorist, that means I like freedom. I like my liberties. I don't like government control. I don't want people to come tell me if I can have a little blow up pool on my property or not. I want to live free. And so if that's what you're going to
Correct.
label me, if that's what you're going to tag me, I'm not even gonna pay attention to it. But so let's dive a little deeper here. We now know who Anne is. We know what her dreams were. She served her country. She had a dream. She followed her dream. She's living her dream. She's excited to add a new feature to her private property. And then here comes the healthcare system in telling you got to shut it down. Get it off your property. We don't even want it on your property. You own it and you own the property, but we don't want it on the property. You fought it. You won. You said that you've learned a lot. So let's uncover some of this corruption that you found in the state of Wisconsin. And if you want to talk about it, we'll dive as deep as you'd like to go. We got about 30 minutes left here, so plenty of time. What is it that you would like for my audience to know about Wisconsin and about your fight?
Well, we can move forward a little bit. I think, I love my state. Wisconsin it's a gorgeous state. You can do anything. Outdoor recreation enthusiasts, boating, hunting, hiking, biking, skiing, cross country skiing, snowshoeing, snowmobiling, everything, and
Don't
then the
forget
bigger
fishing.
cities
Don't forget
and
fishing.
fishing. Yes, I come from a hunting and fishing family. Yes, fishing, of course. So we have mostly 80% of the state of Wisconsin is red. We are, I don't know if I want to say conservative, but we're a Republican. We believe in Republican ways, a Republican government. Our liberties are inherent, God-given, unalienable rights. Our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is 80% or more of the state of Wisconsin. But the way that, these lovely districts and boundaries and stuff are set up, Madison and Milwaukee are the ones that their vote counts more than the other 80%. And, I started telling people that would come into my bar, I'm a patriot. I love my country. I love God. I love my family. And, I love being happy and living, and, doing happy things. But there's other people that don't share that ideal with me. And I didn't really fully comprehend just how different some people think until our sheriff at the time, Sheriff Adam Bieber, like in 2019, the end of 2019, he started contacting some of us about making Shawano County, Wisconsin into a Second Amendment county. And he reached out to me on Messenger and asked me if I would come in and speak at one of these meetings. And I did. And I very humbly say this, but after I got done speaking, I had applause. I had people that applauded for what I was saying. There was a lot of other veterans there. It was a huge group. I invited as many people as I could. A lot of my neighbors showed up. A lot of people spoke other than just me. But the sheriff, he thanked me for coming, and then he invited me to speak at the next one. And at the second one, that's where these the the people that hate America and everything that you and I hold sacred and dear, the people that do not believe the same way that we do, they're the ones that were at that meeting. And the things that they said, it made my ears bleed. It was so terrible. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe that we had people like that in our country, within our border. I just couldn't believe it. And in Shawano. So,
And what the crazy thing about what you just said, Anne, is the fact that you served your country proudly among many warriors and patriots out there, men and women who have served this country, to give them the right to hate this country. And that's their own right. That's their own choice. It's crazy that you still did that. You served your country even to give those people that right to hate this country. And that's something that absolutely breaks my heart and makes me sad to hear patriots like yourself, veterans like yourself that have served this country. And so many of them, have told me personally, I even served to give the right to those people that hate this country, and I would do it again.
That is correct. Freedom of speech is a very powerful thing. Even though our media is complicit in all of these crimes and criminal activity because they silence our voices. And thank God there are people like you, Liberty Warrior, that have been able to provide an alternative platform so we can still get our voices out. There's a lot of people. There's a lot more people that think like you and I think than what these people that hate America. There's a lot more of us than there are of them. And good will win over evil.
Amen.
God is on our side.
Amen.
So
you're at this event, and these people show up, and they're saying some pretty mean things.
yep.
Please continue.
Yeah, I learned that there were actually people that hated my sheriff, and he's like President Trump is to me. He's draining the swamp. He's identifying the problems. He's got the solution, and I supported him. I supported him 100%. And these people did not. And I just couldn't believe it. It blew me away. And after the meeting, I had to get going. I had to get back to work. But Sheriff Bieber messaged me, and he told me, thank you for showing up. And I said, I feel so bad for you. I'm like, why are these people saying these hateful things to you? I said, it really pissed me off. And he told me that he knew that he had a target on his back, and it was only a matter of time before they came after him. Mm-hmm. And that blew me away. I'm like, my sheriff? You ain't gonna mess with my sheriff. And I promised him, well, I go, well, who, was it this guy and his wife, one of the guys that's on our Shawnee County board, he's terrible, very abusive, very confrontational. And it's hard when you have an ethics committee at your Shawnee County board, but the people that are sitting on the ethics committee are unethical. So there's not really a check and balance system there anymore. But the sheriff told me that it was not those people. It was some of the deputies in his department. And I was like, what?
Wow.
I'm like, how can you be an oath sworn officer to you take an oath to uphold and support the Constitution of the United States and the Wisconsin Constitution? How could you be a liberal? I just didn't get it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I promised him that I would do everything in my power to help expose the dirty cops that he had on his team so that we could, move them on out because they were not suited for the job. And that kind of leads us into 2020. China, the so-called Cove ID was starting to come out in China, and I was watching some of the videos come out, and I'm like, what in the hell is going on over there? And March rolls around. We're supposed to have our Second Amendment Sanctuary County meeting to vote. They'd already gone through one vote, and this was supposed to be the confirmation vote, and it was expected to go through. It did eventually go through a couple months later, but Governor Evers shut down our state, our great state of Wisconsin, in the middle of March. And I was on my way to a camping and RV show near Wausau, Wisconsin, a town named Rothschild, ironically, or maybe not so ironically. But I knew the organizer of the event, he's a patriot like we are, and I knew that it was going to go. I'm like, I'll figure out what in the hell's going on once I get there and get my booth set up. And the show, the numbers were obviously down. Nobody knows what in the hell's going on. The radio and the news are going just nonstop that there's this pandemic, this outbreak, and I'm like, what in the hell? And I went home that night, or well, after that weekend, and normally the phone is ringing off the hook, and people are getting spring fever and they're ready to go camping. And normally that weekend would have been the kickoff for reservations to go green light go. And I got home and I had like only 10 calls, and it was very disheartening. I had made, I think, $9,000 of my $20,000 April mortgage, and I had 11,000 to go, which normally would not have been an issue that time of year. But the reservations pretty much ground to a halt. The phone was not ringing. And that weekend when I got home, the last callback that I did, they didn't leave a message. It was just a missed call, but I like to call everybody that calls me. I like to make contact. So I called that number back, and as it's ringing, I'm like, Tim Ryan, why do I know that name, Ryan? And then as he's answering, I'm like, oh, this is the reporter from the Shawnee Leader.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of turned into an interview, and he was definitely already slanted on how that story was supposed to go. And he asked me what I was going to do, and I said, well, I'm open, I'm open for business. We're open year round, and I see no reason to change any of my operations. I go, if people don't want to come, well, that's their decision.
Yeah.
And I could tell by the way he was asking his so-called questions that this was not going to be a good article for me. And I was pleasant, and we hung up the phone. And I checked my messages real quick, my Facebook and Messenger real quick, and then I need to get back to the house and take care of my kids, get in bed, and all that good stuff. But Sheriff Bieber had sent me a message, and it had a page that he had attached, and he said, you need to, be careful, look out for this guy. He's got it out for you. And I kind of looked at it a little bit, and I could see it was from this reporter. And I just started laughing. And I had to go take care of my children, so I wasn't too concerned. I just sent Adam a quick note back saying, yeah, I know this guy. I've dealt with him before. I'm not worried. I go, I know that he wants to put in a negative article. I told him to write an article on the Bill of Rights and our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence. That's what he needed to educate our public about.
Mm-hmm.
But if he decided to do a negative article about me, it was going to backfire. So, Sheriff Bieber, he said that the same reporter was trying to get him to do an interview, but the sheriff's department had kind of been, pushing it off for a while. And I told Adam, I said, well, you do whatever you have to do is right for you. But if he makes a mistake and publishes it the way that I think he's going to, it will backfire. And it did massively. We were very busy in 2020. But because I took a stand and I basically told my governor Evers that he was the one that was not essential. I stayed open, and I opened my bar and restaurant early. I asked Sheriff Beaver, I said, look, the money's not coming in. People are scared. I need to do something. I go, this is not what they're saying it is. It is not a pandemic. I go, have you read United Nations Agenda 21? Because this is what is happening right now. And I go, I don't know exactly what is going on, but I will find out. And I go, if I open my bar and restaurant earlier than Memorial Day weekend this year, will you arrest me? And Sheriff Bieber said, no, I will not. I see this as an infringement of our personal liberties.
Amen.
And I thanked him. He was one of 4 sheriffs that wrote a letter to Governor Evers and said that they would not enforce his mask mandate or any other mandate that infringed on our personal liberties. Four sheriffs of 72 counties.
That's awesome. So you stood up, you stayed open, and I congratulate you for that, because I was right there on the front lines too. We kept our business open. They considered us essential, being electricians, but I didn't care whether they considered me that or not. I didn't close my doors for not even one day. So what happened in the rest of the story here? Are we going to ride off in the sunset and say that Ann fought and won, and she kept her RV park open, she made her mortgage payment, and now she's just as happy as a clam, or did things take a different turn?
Well, when the PPP stuff came out, I did not fit into any of those categories. And when I asked the bank if they would push back the remaining balance of my April mortgage back to the May mortgage, which instead of 20 grand for April is only 2,000 for May, they would not push it back to May. I was very surprised at that. But I ended up making it. That wasn't an issue, but it really opened my eyes to the bank. And I'm like, they are not working with people when nobody really knew what in the hell was going on at that time. And it opened my eyes to just how sinister the banks were, because they were not helping the mom and pop places and the small business owners succeed and make it through this pandemic. Especially the initial 5-6 months, it was incredible, the suffering that a lot of other bar, restaurant, even some campground owners, they decided not to open. I thought they were crazy myself. And I had haters come out all over the place. I got just slammed on all my social media accounts, my business email account, my website, my phone lines for my business. I had hundreds of death threats, hundreds of threats to do bodily harm, threats to burn my place down.
Now this is because you stayed open. People were threatening you.
Yes, correct.
And these were just people in the area that didn't like the fact that you wouldn't comply. So they were going to take matters into their own hands, because I think in some form or fashion, all of us experienced the rage and the hate from this cult. And I call it a cult because that's exactly what it was. The people that complied and would get pissed if you didn't comply. It's a cult. It's cult behavior. Correct. I've had people in the grocery store get in my face, and I tell them, you're in my zone here, and I'm just going to forewarn you, I do have a tripping hazard, and when I trip and I fall, I lead with an elbow. So you need to back up. They took license plate number on my Jeep and tried to turn me into the cops for coming into, this was in Northern California, for coming into a grocery store not wearing one of those things. I would not comply. There was no way I was going to comply. And so I think all of us in some form or fashion, if we stood up to this tyranny, we experienced the rage and the hate from the cult culture of these people, and some of them are still there. I mean, they're still wearing it, they're still going, and they're on boost 27 or whatever it is now. And they get mad. They get mad at you if you don't comply, and I will not comply. I never will, and I just will not. So these are just people in your own neighborhood, in your own city, in your own area that are making death threats against you and pissed off because you will not comply. That's such a shame.
Right. And then I had this one guy, a lot of it was local. A lot of it actually came from out of state, and trying to block and delete, comments on Facebook because they were terrible. Some of these comments were absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
And I couldn't delete them. I'm like, why can't I delete and ban this person from my page? And that's when I learned about these bot farms where you have these big warehouses, 1, 2, 3 football fields large, and multiple shelves and multiple aisles with all these cell phones on it, and they're bots. It's a bot farm. And I'm
Bot
like,
farm.
holy crap, man, this is nuts.
So
And I
well,
had a guy.
we also talked real quick because I want to get to this part where you were telling me off air that, and I think it's important for the audience to know that you started having to also deal with like trespassers, and didn't you say that they somehow changed the paperwork to where somebody else owned the deed to your property? Can we get
Oh
to that
yeah.
part too? Because
Yes.
this is some crazy stuff that she was telling me off air before we got on here, that this isn't as simple as, hey, a health inspector came in and shut this down, then COVID hits, then we're getting death threats and bots. They took it even a step further.
Right. I had one gentleman, well, not a gentleman, one guy that I called back. He had called numerous times with death threats. He was from the state of Washington, and I called him back, and I was working my butt off that day. It was so hot and humid, and I was throwing mulch on the campground. I called the guy back, and I got his voicemail, and like a dumbass, I said, "This is Deputy Retzloff calling from the Shawano Sheriff's Department. You will immediately cease and desist your harassing phone calls to Annie's campground. Failure to cease and desist may result in a harassment charge." Click. That son of a, you know what? He took that voicemail and he put a complaint against me at the Shawano County Sheriff's Department for, for harassment. Oh, no, I'm
Well,
sorry, for impersonating an
impersonating
officer.
an officer.
Yeah. So, I called the guy, told him to quit. He didn't call back anymore. And so I go about my business, and it's by this time it's like probably June, July timeframe. It's hot. And I get a call. I'm out on the tractor. Again, I'm throwing mulch that day. Um and my phone rings. So I turn off the tractor, and it's Detective I think Kozlowski is his name or something like that. Um he's supposed to be one of their cyber cops, but he called me and told me that they had received a complaint and that they were going to charge me with felony charges for impersonating an officer. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, did you or did you not do this? And I'm like, well, yeah, but I didn't mean anything malicious by it. I go, I'm just calling a guy that was threatening to kill me.
Yeah.
I told him to stop. I'm like, can't Sheriff Bieber just deputize me so I can call some of these haters back and just tell them that? Just stop. And he kind of chuckled a little bit. He's like, no, Bieber will never deputize anybody. And I'm like, well, it's not like I was driving around, the neighborhood and throwing a red and blue cherry up on top of my car, pulling people over and roughing them
Pulling a
up. I said,
badge, pulling a
I
badge
didn't
like
do anything.
Herschel Walker.
I said, I didn't do anything wrong. I go, I'm sorry. I didn't mean anything by it. I know you guys are busy. You don't need to be bothered by this kind of crap. And he's like, well, that's not how this works, Annie. This is very serious. Impersonating an officer, we're going to have to charge you. And I took a breath and I'm thinking to myself, I had sweat dripping off of me. I'm out on the tractor, I'm working. And I'm like, well, I don't know what you and the DA are going to do because I wasn't impersonating an officer. I'm a captain. I go, if I would have said this is captain in the United States Army, I would have been fine. But I screwed up and I admit that I screwed up. I'm sorry. And he's like, oh, you're a captain? I said, yeah, I am an officer. He's like, oh, well, I'm going to have to get with the DA and I'll get back to you. Well, they end up charging me for harassment by phone.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, this is the
You're
DA.
getting death threats. You're getting
Yep.
death threats, and this guy gets off scot clean, and you get it for harassment. Wow.
Yeah, by phone. And the detective is their cyber guy, the computer guy. I'm like, well, can't you like trace this call back and like charge it? Anyway, they never did anything to the guy that was actually harassing me, and I was gonna fight it. But now we're going into like the weekend before the 2020 election. And I'm out, we're winterizing the campground, and I get a call, messages, text, my phone's going off, and we're getting ready for winter. I didn't have a lot of time on my hands, but they're trying to tell me that there was something going around Facebook again. I'm like, now what? And I'm censored on Facebook. So, 30 days censor on and off multiple times. So I had to warm up my hands. I go in the house, I check my messages, and the Shawano County Democratic Party, which I didn't even know existed before that day, the Shawano County Democratic Party had accused me on their political Facebook page that Ann Retzloff, owner of Annie's Campground, was caught stealing a sign. This is a federal offense. And by the time I got in there, that picture, and allegedly there was a picture, it wasn't of me, but it was a picture of 2 or 3 women, I guess. But they had removed the picture and they updated it and said, please do not take the law into your hands. Ann Retzloff, owner of Annie's Campground, has turned herself in to the Shawano County Sheriff's Department. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on around here? I'm like, I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. Yeah. I'm like, where am I right now? And okay, so now I had to go finish, doing the campground, and we're trying to leave for my niece's wedding. So we're hurrying, trying to get the critical winterization done. And then on the way to, we left the campground. I called the sheriff's department. I'm trying to make a complaint about these Democrats that are accusing me of things that I hadn't done. I didn't even know where the hell their office was at the time. They're accusing me of stealing a Biden sign. And anybody that knows me knows that A, I wouldn't steal anything, and B, I sure in the hell am not touching a Biden sign, let alone stealing. You couldn't pay me to take a Biden sign.
The only one in town, the only Biden sign in town.
Yeah, so the cops would not take a statement over the phone. They said, you'll have to come in and do this in person. I'm like, well, I can't come in until Monday. So I hang up the phone. We're still driving, back to my hometown for the wedding. And my phone starts going off again. And people are like, hey, did you see this going around on Facebook? I'm like, now what? And I thought it was the Democrat Party. And they're like, no, it's this. And one of the guys that at the time he was on the Shawano County School Board that I was friends with. Now he's on the Shawano County Board. Thank God we have a constitutionally sound person on there. But he sent me a memo that was written by attorney Stephen Menard and Aaron Damrow. Aaron Damrow was running as an independent against our current DA, who's allegedly a Republican. He was running against Greg Parker. And they wrote an article and it basically accused me of all kinds of stuff. And that Sheriff Bieber and DA Parker and I were all in, we were like, they were showing favoritism towards me because of this impersonating an officer ticket that I didn't get in trouble for it. Anybody else would have gone to jail, but Annie Retzloff, she gets off on it. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this crap.
You
And I
should,
was actually supporting Aaron
should write a
Damrow
book.
because our DA needed to go. He's trying to press, felony charges on me for impersonating an officer for something absolutely ridiculous. So I was like, holy crap, what is going on? Do do do. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. So now it's election time. And I went to bed the night before President Trump was winning by huge leaps and bounds.
Massive.
Everybody knows I'm a Trump. I wake up the next morning to find out Biden had, and I was like, what in the hell
I think,
happened overnight?
I think we're losing
And
you there, Annie.
I went out and had, when Eva's down there, put,
We're,
oh,
we're we're losing you there for a minute,
you can
Annie.
hear me now?
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I had put give me liberty or give me death out of my little blinky sign out front, my business sign, like the 3 foot by 5 foot sign. And then after Biden allegedly won the election, I went out and added "'Tis the season for treason," which stayed on my sign, well, since at least until April 2022. So now, so I've had the haters after me for quite a while, and I got a lot of I had got a lot of business. I had a lot of people coming in and telling me their story, a lot of veterans coming in and thanking me for standing up for our rights. There was a lot of hugs and tears. A lot of people were confused about what was going on. I tried to explain to them that it is not what we think. It's United Nations Agenda 21. It is in play right now. I said, don't be afraid. This will work out. It is a military operation. Then I started having people tell me their stories about the crooked DA and the dirty cops. And I heard a lot of stories, and I started doing an awareness movement, so to speak, for ending human trafficking and ending child trafficking. That brought more people in. They found me whether I was bartending or out, cutting wood or out on the tractor or putting in septic tanks. It didn't matter. They found me wherever I was in the campground, and they told me their stories. And a lot of them they're horrible stories. So I didn't know what to do. I was giving the same information I got. I was feeding it to Sheriff Bieber and to Jerry Erdman, my county chairman at the time. And it would have been, well, it was May, June of 2020. I think I had already started the human trafficking hotline case, 7899995 for northeastern Wisconsin. And then the more so-called negative publicity that I got because I stayed open and I stood up for our rights, that just brought more people in, and I heard a lot of stories. So I kept reporting those stories to the human trafficking hotline case 7899995. And I started kind of coming under fire from other people. Let's see, it would have been March, April timeframe of 2021. I had one of the county board members, Joe Miller, and his wife, Jackie Miller. I don't know if I can say this on air, but she's one of the local cocaine dealers. She's also a so-called private investigator, and she's a guardian ad litem for the tribe, one of the tribes that are by me. Her reputation is very well known, and it's not a good reputation, and neither is his. He was a former law enforcement officer for the tribe, and he lost his badge because he would, break people's windows and pull them out of the car and beat the shit out of them, or, threaten people, take a bat, break their headlights. And he sits on our county board.
Wow.
Well, I question government, and they don't like to be questioned.
They don't
So
like to be questioned, and you started standing up for things, and you found out real quick when you're a squeaky wheel like that, they always say the squeaky wheel gets greased, but they don't like that. And I've
No.
experienced some of that myself. We're up against the hour here, Ann, and what I would like to do is roll into final thought, and I'm gonna extend an invitation to you to come back on, because I don't think we even got to the gist of a lot of this conversation we wanted to have today in just 1 hour. So I'd like to invite you back for a second hour, because I want you to go a little bit deeper into what you're sharing right now about some of these agencies and some of these people there in your county, and the trafficking and all the other stuff that you started uncovering. I think it's important for our audience to hear that. Um, but I want to do it in a part two series. So
Okay.
um, I want to give you another full hour, because I feel like I just got to know you. Like I've heard your story of serving our country and building this wonderful place, this RV place, and you started having some issues, and you battled through them, and now here you are on the precipice of really undigging digging up a lot of stuff. So let's roll into a final thought here. What would you like my audience to either know about you, know about your RV park, or maybe a prelude comment into part two with Annie's RV park?
Um, Closing thoughts, because there still is a lot more to come. But in my research, what I discovered is not only is the United States a corporation, state of Wisconsin is a corporation, all 50 states and territories are corporations, or they were until I believe June, July of 2018, 19. Um, the county of whatever your county is, you can look it up yourself on Dun and Bradstreet and find the Dunn's number. The Dun and Bradstreet is like it's a credit reporting agency for businesses. So if it's a corporation, like my LLC would be on there too, because I found out that LLC, the C stands not for company but corporation. And anybody that has an LLC should dissolve it immediately, and I'll talk about that on part two.
Okay.
But if you Google your or Dun and Bradstreet, County of Shawano, it pulled up at the time. It was 47 different sub corporations. One of those is the Shawano County Sheriff's Department, the Shawano County Jail, the Shawano County Judicial Branch, each of the circuit court, each of the circuit courts, the clerk of court, the clerk of Shawano County, and etc. These are all operating for-profit corporations, which means you're like my good sheriff. He was being undermined by the CEO of the Shawano County Sheriff's Department, which was the former sheriff that Sheriff Bieber ran against and won. So the CEOs of these companies are undermining our constitutionally sound, maybe truly elected officers. And I would encourage everybody at your local level to figure out who those people are on your school boards, your county boards, your village boards, your city boards, and do something. This is the time to get up off of your asses and take action. And you can do this peacefully. You know, the pen is mightier than the sword. And God gave those who have more the ability to do more. So if you got a brain between those two ears of yours, then God fully expects you to use that to your best and highest potential. So my word is to get active. If you want change for our country right now, then join one of your hopefully one of the assemblies has started coming together. If we get 38 of the 50 states settled, so we can go back to 1861 when our Constitution was suspended with Abe Lincoln, when the Southern states seceded. There's a lot of history, and I'm sorry I'm probably running overtime here, but
We'll get into it in part two.
yeah,
I'm
get
actually
active.
I'm actually really excited about doing a part two with you, because you're touching on a lot of stuff that we've been researching for quite a while. And my motto here at LWN is unite, educate, and motivate. And I think you're one of those people that want to unite people, you want to educate people, and you want to motivate them to get involved at their local level and get plugged back into life. So I appreciate that, Ann. Go ahead and finish up your final thought there, and then we're going to go ahead and exit stage left, and we'll get behind the mic here, and we'll figure out the schedule to have you back on again.
Okay, awesome. I would say not all cops are bad, but we do need police reform. It's just not what they're talking about on TV. Our Constitution has been suspended, and there's the Michigan Assembly, which has been established since 2010. They work very closely with Team Trump and the military. If you go to www.national-assembly.net, there is a plethora of solid information. I went down the wrong path a couple of times. There are false prophets out there, so please beware of Anna Von Reitz and David Lester Straight and any other assembly saying state national. There's no such thing as state nationals. I guess I look forward to part 2. Again, Liberty Warrior, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate my voice finally getting out there a little bit. I thank you very much for your service as well.
Well, thank you for that, Ann. Listen, folks, God bless each and every one of you. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Like I said, I'm going to talk to Ann off air, and we will discuss here very soon in the next couple of weeks, part 2 with Ann, because I can't wait to have her start talking about the little tidbits she just dropped here at the end of part 1. So God bless each and every one of you. Have a great evening, and we will catch you on the next one. All right, everybody. Welcome to the coin giveaway. Pretty excited about this for the month of January. So let's go up here. I'm going to pick a random name for Facebook. For all those who bought stars in the month of January, we're going to pick a random winner here. So we've got lines 3 through 12. Let's see who the winner is. Line number 9, which is Lori Underwood. Lori Underwood from Facebook, you are a coin winner for the coin giveaway in the month of January on Facebook. Let's go to sheet number 2. Let's go up here. Let's go to equals random between. Looks like we've got lines 3 through 18. Lines 3 through 18. Who is the lucky winner? Line number 10. Line number 10 is Debbie Golden. Debbie Golden, you are the January Buy Me a Coffee coin giveaway winner. Congratulations to everybody who played, everybody who supported LWN. Please email me. So I'll put this up on the community bulletin boards, on YouTube, on Facebook, everywhere I possibly can. So Debbie Golden, Buy Me a Coffee winner, please email me your address, your physical address, so I can ship you out a 1-ounce silver coin. And then winner from the Facebook group. Let me find, there it is. Winner from the Facebook group is Lori Underwood. Please send me an email also with your mailing address, and I will get those out to you in the mail as soon as possible. Thank you guys for joining. Thanks for playing. We'll catch you on the next
Warrior
one.
Nation, if you missed it last time, it's back. The biggest bed sheet sale ever. The Giza Dream Sheets, the bed sheets as low as $29.99 using promo code LWN. You could save up to 50% off. Don't forget, Mike Lindell and My Pillow have some of the best products out there. He has My Coffee, My Slippers. He's got bedding for dogs. He's got the bath towel sets. Lots of great products out there for every Patriot. And if you'd like to support Mike Lindell in return, supporting him also supports me here at LWN. Like I said, use promo code LWN. You could save up to 50% off the Giza bed sheets, $29.99.
for a sincere performance, but open to finding the moment, to finding out where I'm headed now. Looking for a sign of disaster, so I can make it there faster. I'm weighing the consequences out. I can see in all directions. It's all open to interpretation, but I see colors that are breaking from the other side, the other side. When I make mountains out of summer trails, when I buckle under all the details, I'll keep going till I make it to the other side, the other side. Can you tell me the secret of how you can take it or leave it? How you can blend in with the crowd? I'm so scared, so damn afraid.